Titane is a fucking crazy movie. Titane... Titane is a movie about the consequences of having unprotected sex with a car. This film is directed by Julia Ducournau, and it's her second feature-length film after The Amazing Raw. The movie starts with Alexia, a young girl, and after throwing a little fit in the car, her father tries to stop her from making a mess and gets them in a car accident. Her head gets crushed like a big melon, and she has to get a piece of titanium inserted into her skull. And fast forward to her adulthood, she's now an erotic dancer at motor shows. She dances on top of cars, and by that I mean she has sex with cars. There's literal sex with a car in the first 10 minutes of the film. She also does some murder, and from that point on, two things happen. First, she starts killing so many people that the police catch up to her, and she has to run away, burning her entire house down with her parents locked in there. Second, she had unprotected sex with a car, so she gets car pregnant. She forgot to use her car condom. What she does to circumvent the situation is she impersonates a boy that's been missing for about a decade, and after shaving her head and breaking her nose, she turns herself into the police. She becomes Adrian and goes to live with the missing boy's father. During this time, she ingrains herself into the world of hyper-masculine firefighters while continuing to hide her identity, which now means binding her growing belly and breasts that leak motor oil. Meanwhile, Vincent, this man, her new adopted father, has been struggling with growing old and religiously injects steroids into his butt. From this moment, we begin to see a relationship grow between the two, where they start to humanize each other and find a father-son love relationship along the way. She dies giving birth to the car baby, and the baby has a metal spine, and Vincent takes care of this baby, saying, "You're my son now." Titane is, among many things, a postmodern film. This post-genre, post-structure plot deals with quite philosophical topics like gender, family, and humanism. It's both a bomb-back family drama and a body horror Cronenbergian joint. It tricks you into believing it's an all-out gore fest, and by the 40-minute mark, you're crying because you feel empathy towards these monstrous characters. After murdering a creepy dude and having a post-murder shower, because when you murder somebody, you gotta have a post-murder shower, she hears a knocking on the door, and it's the car knocking, inviting her to have sex. This is one of the most surrealist aspects of the film, and what I really like about this scene is how well Ducournau establishes the consent between Alexia and the car. I know that might sound silly, but there's a plethora of ways in which you can establish verbal and nonverbal consent, and the way the car and Alexia communicate is quite beautiful and respectful as well. Nevertheless, I feel like the car fucking aspect of the film is maybe the least interesting part. It's as though Ducournau is using sexuality and the male gaze as a hook for the viewer. In feminist theory, the male gaze is the act of depicting women from a masculine heterosexual perspective that presents and represents women as sexual objects for the pleasure of the heterosexual male viewer. This can be seen through Alexia's transformation from sex object in the beginning to pregnant person gushing motor oil from their breasts and vagina. Alexia is a very androgynous presenting person. They're extremely skilled at switching between gender representations, girl moding or boy moding, depending on what the situation requires. Another interesting gender aspect of the film is the fact that Alexia is sexually attracted to cars. Cars in American culture are seen as a symbol of both freedom and sexual power. It's not just that she has sex with a car, but that she represents this hedonistic synthesis between human and machine. She gives birth to the first post-human creature and brings new life into the world, a blend of human and machine that's better equipped for the world we've created and destroyed. While connecting to this idea of gender, there's a sense that Alexia only becomes a real person when she pretends to be a boy. Literally, the moments where Vincent is most human are also those where he's rejecting toxic masculinity and freely dancing with his peers, or even being nurturing towards the baby and Adrian. Beyond being part machine, Alexia is also post-gender. It's as if the director is making a point that boxing yourself into the gender binary is dehumanizing, and queerness becomes a middle ground for both of them, where Alexia finds humanity while performing male socialization and impersonating Adrian, while Vincent finds himself in the pure act of dancing to the Isley Brothers with his hypermasculine firefighting bros. A very interesting scene that depicts this gender non-normativity is the one where Adrian is dancing to the firefighters on top of the bus. Adrian is dancing in a very similar manner to the one they did at the beginning of the film, except this time they're dancing out of their own choice in a place with people that they care about, a safe place. It feels very different from the beginning of the film, where you get the sense that Alexia is performing for the male gaze. This time, Adrian is being hypersexual, yes, but not out of duty. This time they do it out of their own choice. There's nothing wrong with performing hyperfeminine hypersexuality, as long as you're in ownership of it. The firefighters that Adrian is dancing for are pretty much the type of men that they'd expect to see at one of those car shows. However, when they're comfortable around each other, they depict homosocialized relationships, such as taking their shirts off and dancing freely, touching each other around purple lights, and it's quite beautiful. There's no shame, there's nothing bad going on. It's only when Adrian brings femininity into the fold of this hypersexual, hypermasculine workplace that things become weird and their guards go back up, further exemplifying that toxic masculinity is not only toxic to those feminine presenting, but also to those masculine presenting and everything in between. Another important aspect of this film is the idea of chosen family. More importantly, the relationship between Adrian and Vincent. Throughout history, body horror has been used to symbolize the horrific nature of humans, but in this film it's used in the opposite way. It's used to humanize Alexia. The more grotesque the two main characters become, the more human they become, and the more they're able to find love within each other. This is the sort of love that they clearly couldn't find with their birth family. Vincent couldn't find that with his wife, and Alexia couldn't find that with her parents. And one of the ways in which Vincent and her empathize is through their sharing of metal objects in their skin. Alexia/Adrian have metal in their skull, while Vincent inserts metal in his skin. One of the ways Alexia and Vincent find common ground is after she tries to kill him with her famous steel hair pin. And rather than getting scared of her, he immediately knocks the thing away and laughs, implying, "I shove metal into myself every day." This brings us into another very important aspect of the film, which is violence. The way in which Alexia performs violent acts with little to no remorse is downright psychotic. The way she disposes of the humans around her reminds me of the way I would dispose of a computer that's been bought and broken. The titanium plates on her head, paired with the poor relational and empathetical skills imbued by her parents, leads to her having more empathy towards machines and metal objects than humans. This portrayal of violence is a huge facet of the new French extremity movement that Ducournau is a part of. A movement that focuses on the most grotesque and macabre aspects of humanity. It also has a tendency to highlight social and political themes such as gender, sexuality, and family. What Ducournau does is move the movement forward through a series of intense yet artistic looks at French society at large. It's clear that she's looking to further the meanings of both love, gender, and humanity through the text. What she aims to create is a generation of folks that aren't defined by gender or familial ties, but rather by the content of their heart. Folks ready to come together with others and make the world a better place. It's a very post-humanistic ideal. As we become a more technological society, what defines a human individual is bound to change. One could argue that ever since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, humans have already been interconnected to machines. We are already post-human in a sense, as part of my consciousness is very much tied down to a tiny device in my pocket. And that device mediates not just knowledge, but also communication, information, and everything in between. The future of humanity is one where inorganic matter is bound to join organic life, and we need to redefine our categories of traditional humanity. It's invigorating to see a female director make such out-of-the-box cinema, portraying aspects of queer culture I would have never thought of seeing in the silver screen. Thank you, Julia Ducournau.